This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And this is a follow up to the Lyle Mays Eobard review that I did just a little while ago. And for today's edition, I am going to be taking a look at Lyle Mays' entire catalogue of solo recordings, which is a total of 6 albums, including one live album. And as we all know, Lyle Mays was best known for his long association as one half of perhaps the finest and most iconic writing team of all time since the legendary Paul McCartney and John Lennon of the Beatles. And I'm talking about, of course, himself and Pat Metheny as members of the Pat Metheny group, which Lyle Mays was a member of from 1977 to 2010. And as I mentioned in the Lyle Mays Eobard review, Lyle Mays' piano and keyboard playing was a huge part of the PMG sound, from the way he used synths as an orchestral textural backdrop. His piano playing and his compositions was a huge part of the Pat Metheny group's music. And as I said before, Pat Metheny would have gone on to become a huge star regardless, but I think Lyle Mays definitely added that little something extra to the music of PMG, which made them so beloved and so iconic for so many decades. And aside from his extensive work with PMG, Lyle Mays has played with and collaborated with a number of great artists such as Noah, Toots Tilminson, Igor Butman, Paul McCandless of Oregon, Woody Herman, Bobby McFerrin, Betty Buckley, Mark Isham, Bob Moses, Eobard Weber. He was a member of the legendary Joni Mitchell All-Star Band with Pat Metheny, Don Alias, Jaco Pastorius, and Michael Brecker. He has also played with Steve Swallow, Phil Wilson, and Rich Matheson, and the 1 O'Clock Lab Band. And as we all know, we sadly lost Lyle Mays on February 10th, 2020, after a long recurring battle with illness. So, for today's edition, as I mentioned already, we are going to be taking a look at Lyle Mays' entire catalogue of albums, which consists of 6 recordings, including one live album. And as always, I'm going to be talking about each album individually, and I'll be choosing which one I think is the best one. And it's very hard because every Lyle Mays album is excellent. There's no bad album in this catalogue, so it's going to be very hard to choose which one I think is the best one because they're all different, they're all very unique, and they all each could easily be number one for anybody. So, as I said, there's no weak album. They're all fantastic, well recorded, well produced, and as you'd expect, from a musician the caliber of Lyle Mays, nothing but top-notch musicianship. So we're going to start with the first album, which was released in 1986, and this is the self-titled album, Lyle Mays. So, as I said already, some of these songs that are featured on this album, PMG were playing it for many years, going all the way back to the late 70s. And as you'd expect from Lyle Mays, he gives you nothing but the absolute best. And a lot of the sound and the style of music on this album is very much similar to PMG, which is no surprise because Lyle Mays was such a huge part of the composing and arrangements of the PMG music. So it's no surprise it would sound pretty much like a continuation of that style of music. So we've got an all-star band. We've got Lyle Mays on piano, keyboards, and auto harp, Alex Acuna on drums, Billy Drews on alto and soprano saxophones, Bill Frisell on guitar, Mark Johnson on bass, and Nana Vasconcelos on percussion from PMG. So an outstanding debut recording, and all the compositions are written, arranged, and composed by Lyle Mays. So we've got Highland Air, Tico, Slink, Mirror of the Heart, which is kind of like a solo piano piece. And we've got the big, long 14-minute epic Alaskan Suite, which is consisting of 3 movements: Northern Lights, Invocation, Ascent, Close to Home. which is the final track, which is what PMG have been playing for a number of years. So every track on this album from start to finish is excellent. Very different to PMG's, somewhat a little bit more darker than some of PMG's music. PMG's music was very summery, very heavy orchestral, and they could be a bit wild at times as well. But with Lyle Mays' self-titled debut album, it's very, very dark, kind of like a new age, sort of classical kind of album. And it's just absolutely haunting and beautiful. And we've even got bagpipes on this album as well. So there's a little bit of something, for everyone. So standout tracks for me are Highland Air, Tico, which has got kind of like a Celtic, Chinese, Asian sort of feel with the auto harps and a big orchestral backdrop that's going on. And Billy Drews and Bill Frisell, their saxophone, and Bill Frisell being a very unique guitar player, combined their sounds, and then you add Lyle Mays' keyboard work as well, make a very, very unique sound, unlike something you wouldn't even hear in PMG or Oregon for that matter. It's just very, very dark and very, very deep. Slink, to me, is probably the most PMG track of the entire album. Very fast paced, very hard hitting, and just lots of great solos. And Bill Frisell, to me, this is probably his best guitar playing I've ever heard him deliver. His solos on here, he's a great foil for Lyle Mays, and you know, doesn't necessarily mean he's emulating Pat Metheny, because Pat Metheny is his own man, and Bill Frisell is very much his own man. So Lyle Mays and Bill Frisell make a very unique pairing, and the sound that they create together is just unbelievable. And another standout track for me, I would say, is the Alaskan Suite. It's just very dark, very haunting, and then very rocky towards the end as well. And the highlight of the Alaskan Suite is definitely Invocation, where it sounds like wind blowing, and Lyle May sounds like he's playing bagpipes on the mountains, but it's actually his keyboards. It's just very, very atmospheric. It's got a lot going on, and to me, that's probably for me the highlight of the Alaskan Suite. And then you got Ascent, which is just Bill Frisell just absolutely rocking it out on the guitar, and he's just unbelievable on this album. And another guy who doesn't really get talked about much on this album, but it's Mark Johnson, an incredible bass player, very reliable, a great guy to have in your band. And although he doesn't really take any bass solos, he does something very similar to what Steve Rodby did for PMG. Is he adds a lot of depth to the music. So even though he's not actually delivering any bass solos in that sense, he's very much all over this album. And the only track I would say he kind of delivers a bass solo of sorts is Northern Lights on Alaskan Suite, where Lyle Mays is providing all these different sounds on the keyboards whilst Mark Johnson is laying down his bass solo. So that's probably the closest thing you'd get to a bass solo on this album. So an excellent debut recording. Lyle Mays, although didn't really lead many bands, but he definitely put together an amazing group of musicians. And it's such a shame he didn't keep this band together, because when you got bands like Bill Frisell, Mark Johnson, and Alex Acuna, in your group, you can't go wrong. And none of us come jealous. He just pretty much continued what he did with PMG in those early years. So there you have it. Lyle Mays' self-titled debut album, highly recommended for anyone who's looking to get into Lyle Mays' solo recordings. So we move on to the next album, which came out in 1988, and this album got a Grammy, I think maybe two, and this is Street Dreams. So a great follow-up to the self-titled debut album, little bit different. So a bit of everything going on here. We got some big band arrangements, we got some very classical chamber orchestral feel going on here, you know, some atmospheric new age stuff. You know, there's a bit of everything going on here. And unlike the first album, there's no set band here. So there's all different musicians that are featured on here. And all of the compositions are written and composed by Lyle Mays, with the exception of one track, which was co-composed by Lyle Mays and Pat Metheny. And it's a great follow-up to the self-titled debut album. So we're just going to have a quick look. So the musicians we got on here is near enough the same band as the first album, with some other featured guest artists. So we've got Bill Frisell back, Mark Johnson back, we've got Steve Rodby from PMG, we've got Peter Erskine, who's played with just about everybody, the legendary Steve Gadd, Steve Jordan, and Vicky Randell. So it's an all-star band here. So we've got Feet First, which features, you know, a great horn section with Bob Mintz and Bob Malik, to name a few. And we've got Steve Gadd and Steve Rodby, which, you know, is quite an underrated rhythm section here. So, you know, you got the two Steves together, and then we got the very calming and soothing August with Bill Frisell and Mark Johnson, and we got Vicky Randell providing like textural percussion. Then we got the Crony Ho, which is Lyle Mays on piano and keyboards, which is kind of like a solo piece, and it's got a very classical sort of feel to it. And then we got Possible Straight, which is again kind of like a big band sort of number, like Feet First. And this features Mark Johnson and Steve Jordan. And we've even got Randy Brecker on trumpet as well. And then we got Hang Time, which has got an amazing quartet of musicians: Bill Frisell, Mark Johnson, and Peter Erskine. Can't go wrong there, really. All legends, all big names, all done it all. Then we got Before You Go with Steve Gadd and Steve Rodby back together. We got Vicky Randell on vocoder, and we've got a string section as well. So they bring like more of a classical sort of feel to it. And then we got the very short but very beautiful duo track called Newborn with Lyle Mays and Bill Frisell. I personally would have liked to have seen more of this, because I think those two have just got such a unique chemistry, which is very different and far removed from what PMG, Lyle Mays, and Pat Metheny did together. And it's very short. The only downside is I just wish it was much longer, because it's so good and so beautiful. And then we got the four-part epic called Street Dreams, which is the title track, and this has got Bill Frisell, Mark Johnson, Peter Erskine, Vicky Randell, again Glenn Velez, Amelia Burrows, and we got Bob Mintzer and Bob Malik on flutes. And you know, it's just so much going on here, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And for me, the standout track of the Street Dreams suite is definitely part 3, which has got like this oboe solo. It's just absolutely tremendous. And part 1 is like 1 minute and 43 seconds. Part 2 is like 11 minutes, and then part 3 is like 3 minutes, and then part 4 is like 4 minutes, clocking at nearly 5 minutes. So it's a very long piece of music divided up into 4 movements. So Street Dreams, as I said, very different to the self-titled debut album, but at the same time, a fantastic follow-up to the first album. So the standout tracks for me are August, Before You Go, Newborn, and the title track, Street Dreams. And I do like part 3. There's just something so dark and classical about it. You know, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And the oboe solo playing is just makes the hair on your arms stand up. And very surprised Lyle Mays didn't do a full-on classical album, you know, like something like Vince Mendoza did over the years. But great stuff here. So there you have it, Lyle Mays, Street Dreams, an amazing follow-up to the first album. So the next album came out in 1993, and this is a very different album, and I believe Downbeat voted it best album of the year, I think. It even beat Keith Jarrett. This is a trio recording. This is Fictionary. So we got an amazing rhythm section, Mark Johnson and Jack DeJohnette. So can't really go wrong with two legendary musicians of that caliber. So all of the compositions are written and composed with a couple of co-credits with Johnson and DeJohnette, and got a standard called Falling Grace, which was written by the amazing Steve Swallow. So we got Bill Evans, the title track Fictionary, Sienna, Lincoln reviews his notes, Hard Eights, Something Left Unsaid, which was actually a track that appeared on Schemes and Dreams by Pat Coyle around this time. Trio 1, Where Are You From Today, Trio 2, Falling Grace, and a solo piano piece to really close out this album. On the Other Hand. So it's a really good album. And in some ways, it kind of sounds very similar to the Keith Jarrett, Gary Peacock, and Jack DeJohnette trio, which is no surprise because Jack DeJohnette plays drums on this album. So it's no surprise it would sound very much in the style and reign of Keith Jarrett. So there you go. So standout tracks for me: Bill Evans, Fictionary, Lincoln reviews his notes, Something Left Unsaid, Where Are You From Today, and On the Other Hand. But an amazing trio album, and definitely one that I would put up there with, Chick Corea's acoustic band and Keith Jarrett's legendary Standards trio. It's just an amazing trio recording, and I definitely would have liked to have seen Lyle Mays explore the trio stuff more because he just sounds absolutely incredible on this album. No keyboards, no electronics, just pure piano, bass, and drums. And it's kind of refreshing to hear Lyle Mays in an acoustic setting because he's so versatile. We're so used to hearing him play keyboards and all these auto harps that people forget that Lyle Mays is actually an amazing jazz pianist. So it's really good to hear him in a much more smaller and intimate setting. So there you have it. Lyle Mays, Fictionary. Can't go wrong if you're a fan of trio music. Highly recommended. So we move on to the next album, which came out in 2001. And this is Solo for Improvisations Expanded Piano. So great album. Lots of improvised tracks, as it says in the name of the album, Improvisations. And this is Lyle Mays at his very best, just him with his keyboards and his piano doing what he does best. And it's just absolutely amazing album. So all of the compositions are written and composed by Lyle Mays. So we've got tracks like This Moment, The Gorgeous Lets Me Count for Ways, We Are All Alone, The Imperative, Procession, Black Ice, Origami, Lightning Field, Locked in Amber, and my personal favourite on this album, Long Life, which is just classic Lyle Mays at his very best. And as I said, if you're a fan of solo piano albums, this is definitely the one for you. And it's an amazing album. So the standout tracks for me are Lets Me Count for Ways, Long Life, as I mentioned already, Locked in Amber, Black Ice, and The Imperative. But it's just an amazing album. And I think this is one of those albums you've really got to listen to in its entirety because, as I said, you forget that Lyle Mays is an amazing piano player. And as I said, if you're a fan of solo piano, this is definitely one for you. So there you have it. Lyle Mays solo improvisations for expanded piano. So that would be it from Lyle Mays. There would be sadly no more studio albums officially in that time. He would continue playing with PMG for a number of more years before PMG would go, which would turn out to be a permanent hiatus. So he recorded two more albums with PMG, Speaking of Now and The Way Up, and PMG did more quartet shows, just the four of them, and that would be it really. So fast forward to 2015, and this is a double live album, and this is Lyle Mays Quartet, the Ludwigsburg concert, which was originally recorded live in 1983 at Scala Ludwigsburg in Germany. So this features Lyle Mays on piano, Mark Johnson on bass, Bob Shepherd on saxophone, and Mark Walker on drums. So it's a good live album. Really enjoyed this one, and I often go back to this quite a lot because, as I mentioned already, it's very unusual, but at the same time very cool to hear Lyle Mays in an acoustic setting. So we've got two CDs with 4 tracks on disc one and 9 tracks on 5 tracks on disc two. So we've got Fictionary, Eva Ornette, Cronenhol, which is quite nice to hear played by a band. Lincoln reviews his notes, and then on disc two we've got Hard Eight, Disbelief, PMG composition Are We There That, and another one, Owlette, which was from the Off Ramp album, and August. So it's a really good live album and very enjoyable and a lot of fun to listen to. So standout tracks for me Are We There That, Owlette, August, Lincoln reviews his notes, and Fictionary. So lots of the tracks are quite long here, so they're all like 24 minutes, 13 minutes, 12, 11, and the shortest track is like 4 minutes long. But it's a great live show, great live performance, and unbelievable playing from everybody involved. And Mark Walker and Mark Johnson, the two Marks, make an amazing rhythm section. And Bob Shepherd, what can you say really? He's one of the best sax players out there, and he just sounds tremendous on this album. And Lyle Mays, he sounds great as always. So that would be it there. Lyle Mays, as I said already, would sadly pass away on February 10th, 2020, after a long battle with a recurring illness. And he would release another album, which came out earlier this year in 2021, which I reviewed not too long ago. And this is Eobard, which is a 13-minute piece of music with Bob Shepherd, Mitchell Foreman, Steve Rodby, Jimmy Johnson, Alex Acuna, Jimmy Brownlee, Wade Calbreth, Bill Frisell, Aubrey Johnson, Rosanna Eckhart, Gary Eckhart, Timothy Lou, Erica Duke Kirkpatrick, Eric Byers, and Armin Kasher-Chinkin. So, bit of everything going on here. And as I said in the Eobard review that I did for this, if this is Lyle Mays' final gift to the world, then I can't think of a better way to go out on him, giving us one final bit of that Lyle Mays magic that we all know and love. So this is Eobard, just in the name. It's a tribute to the legendary bassist Eobard Weber, who Lyle Mays played with back in the early 80s. And of course, as we all know, Eobard Weber played on the second Pat Metheny recording called Watercolors, which Lyle Mays was a part of. So there's a lot of history there. So beautiful album, as I said, 1 track, 13 minutes long. You can't go wrong. So, which album out of all 6 would I say is the best one? They're all good, they're all different, but I'm going with the first album. You can't beat it. Adventurous, epic, dark, haunting, beautiful. So many words I could describe the self-titled debut album. This is my all-time favorite Lyle Mays album. I always go back to this, and it's just an incredible album. And what a top-notch band he's got here. I just wish he could have kept this band for more albums, but boy oh boy, love it. So there you have it, my all-time favorite Lyle Mays album out of all 6, the self-titled debut album. But as I said, any of these other albums could have easily been #1, but I'm sticking with this one. Can't beat it. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite Lyle Mays recording from all 6? Is it the self-titled debut album? Is it Street Dreams? Is it Fictionary? Is it Solo? Is it Ludwig Concert? Or is it Eobard? There's no right and wrong answer. We all have our favourites. You know what to do, guys. hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I just want to quickly take this opportunity to say a special thank you to Lyle Mays for all of the incredible music that he made with the Pat Metheny group and all of the great solo music that he gave us over the years. Your legacy and your body of work will live on forever, and may you rest in peace.